to Integrated EDU,
where innovation meets education.
Here we explore fresh strategies,
creative learning pathways,
and powerful tools to boost student engagement and growth.
Let's elevate education,
one idea at a time. Hey educators, welcome back to another episode on Integrated EDU. I'm Megan.
And I'm Kara.
We are really excited about this episode today because it is really going to bring more of a connection between all of us as educators.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
That was good.
Thank you.
That was clever.
Kara, what's our title today for our episode?
We are doing an episode of connection versus compliance.
It's all about how do we move from being compliant to what we're teaching to actually connecting to our content and, of course, to our students.
I feel like so oftentimes we kind of get stuck.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, have you ever taught a lesson and you just are like, this is not driving. This is not vibing.
It's not hitting. And you know what happens is when you're teaching that lesson and it's not hitting and your kids aren't connecting with it, you have somehow followed some type of scripted curriculum to a T, thinking this is it. This is what's going to make it happen. This is how it's going to move my kids. And you end up feeling very disengaged with what you're doing. And you know, and that's frustrating.
I feel like we feel very strongly about this content or this idea of, you know, connection over compliance because it's literally how we got started. That's how Integrated was born. I remember Meg was teaching second grade at the time and I was teaching first grade. And I remember I was kind of a lone duck because I was trying to be a little more innovative. Team wasn't all on board, which is fine. And so I was just trying new things that Meg and I had been discussing in my room. And I was at a point where we had adopted this new curriculum and they said, say this, student, say this. I was sitting there all prepared, had, you know, all the materials, kids were at the carpet, and you're going through the lesson. And as I'm sitting there going through the lesson, the kids aren't saying all the things that they're supposed to be saying. And as I'm literally teaching and reading this off, my mind is wandering. And so then I stop and I think, if I'm having trouble connecting to this content and teaching this to my kids, I can't imagine what these kiddos are feeling at this moment. There's no way that they are connecting to what I'm saying because I don't feel connected to what I'm saying. And it was in that moment that I was like, I can't do this in this way. I can use this as a guide, but I can no longer teach in this way because my kids aren't connecting and I'm not going to be able to grow them if I continue down this path.
And when we get to those moments, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I'm sure our listeners are like, yes, it just, the lesson doesn't hit.
Yes.
The kids are starting to squirrel. If you've given them any supplies, those supplies are being used for anything but what they're supposed to be used for. And that's, if we start feeling that way, that we're disconnected from what we're teaching, we got to do something different. And, you know, I think though, we're faced with a lot of barriers.
That's true. I feel like teachers, they feel a lot of pressure on themselves, hence why a lot of us become very compliant.
Yeah. Well, we got to get through the curriculum. We got to cover the curriculum. We got to get through all the things. We don't have time to slow down, nor do we have time to plan for the thing, you know? And it becomes frustrating and stressful. And then we fall into compliancy. So that's a barrier. We're covering the curriculum.
And I feel like a lot of times in some schools, districts, situations, they get handed a specific like pacing guide. You need to have so much covered by this amount of time. Week 1, you should have this amount of stuff taught, you know, and so that I think can put a lot of pressure on educators of kind of that similar thing. Like, I got to cover it. I got to go. This is what needs to happen. And so I think that's another thing that teachers can kind of feel pressured by, and hence why some of it turns into more of a compliancy situation rather than I'm feeling connected to what I'm teaching today situation.
Yeah. And then on top of that, not only are we told cover this, script this, pace that, but then we get this educator guilt of, are we doing it wrong? Because here's the thing, we're given all this curriculum, which is great. We love the resources. We love the pacing guides. We like to have stuff like that. But we almost have a sense of, well, am I doing it wrong because my kids aren't moving? They're not growing. Their behaviors are rising. And newsflash, it's not our fault because we need to bring in us. We need to bring in more relationship building, more connection with our students when given these tools and these resources. And then those things just happen naturally.
Mm-hmm. And I think we have to also remember, we feel so strongly about this because there is a huge importance of why connection matters.
Mm.
Because if you think about it, compliance is simply getting tasks done. In my head, when I think of that word, I visualize like a long to-do
Oh,
list,
yeah,
right? Like
boxes.
check, 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 check. Whereas that is not how you want your students to learn. Like I don't want my students in my classroom to think of their education journey as just checking off boxes. Oh, got that page done. Did that, did that. Like there's no ownership of it. There's no love of learning. There's no like curiosity.
Hmm.
And that's what we're wanting from our kids. And so, when we're talking about all these things, it's so important because connection will naturally provide that engagement that we
Yes.
want our kids involved in. And so I think it's important to remember why connection is so important
Yeah.
when we're talking about this.
And I think right now in education, we're really focused on building relationships with our
Mm-hmm.
students and having that connection with them. And so if we could not add another thing to our plates, but put that connection, that relationship building in with teaching content, it just makes us feel a little less stress of what we need to deliver and how we need to show up for our kids. And so today we're going to provide you with some ideas and some strategies that you can move from that compliance mindset with your curriculum, feeling frustrated, checking boxes, to connecting to that curriculum, to that content, and those natural relationships with your students. The behaviors
Mm-hmm.
go down, the engagement goes up, and all
Mm-hmm.
of this is happening together. It's all
Mm-hmm.
integrated.
Mm-hmm. Huh, good. Yeah, good. Yeah, yeah, that was good. No, and it's very true because it's I just overheard my son's coaches. They ended their football season,
Mm.
great season, and we were telling them like, great job, coaches. It was a wonderful group of coaches. And one of the coaches goes, yeah, it was so much fun. And the more fun we had, and the more hyped we got, the more fun they had, and the more hyped they got. And I was like, yes.
Yes.
Yes, that is exactly it. I'm like, I know they were talking football, but of course, as an educator, brain goes to, yes, that is exactly it. That is exactly what needs to happen in the classroom. And us as teachers, so oftentimes we're like, yeah, we know, but we get so like weighed down by so
Hmm.
many other things. And so we want just to remind you, like, that's what we're striving for. That's what our kids need to create, moving from disengagement to engagement, moving from that to-do list of compliance to that connection and finding the curiosity and that love of learning.
We give you permission to have fun in your
Yeah,
classroom.
it's okay.
It's okay.
It's
Like,
okay.
I'm thinking, okay, so here's a thought. We did this amazing unit on community, and
Mm-hmm.
then we moved it into natural disasters and all the things. And Kara's husband is a firefighter, he's a battalion chief. And so he knows everything to know about wildfires and how to fight them and the tools to use and all the things. And so, what better way to build that connection with
Mm-hmm.
our students, knowing Mrs. Rigsby, knowing that she has this husband that's doing this work, bring him in,
Mm-hmm.
connect that. And so not only are her students learning a little bit more about her and her family and the connection there, but they're also understanding the content
Mm-hmm.
of natural disasters. What do we do during this wildfire? What tools do you use?
Mm-hmm.
And it was absolutely
Yeah, it
amazing.
was a lot of
They were
fun.
so engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Even the kids that are always disengaged,
Mm-hmm.
you know who they are, were engaged. They were
Mm-hmm.
asking questions that were meaningful
Mm-hmm.
and gaining so much knowledge through that.
Yeah, in just those little things, you have provided connection in multiple areas. You provided connection with a relationship with you as the educator. You provided a connection with content, and you have provided a connection with the community. So now when they're out in the community, they recognize who these people are, what their jobs are, and they have a better understanding. And so it just takes little simple things. So that's one of the strategies we're sharing with you is to help move from compliance to connection is make it personal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean we like share your life story with your students or anything like that, but simple things. They knew my husband was a firefighter. We were talking about natural disasters. It was a perfect bridge to kind of bring those things together. And it doesn't have to be to that extreme either. It can be something as simple as every year my kids learn about me. I love music and a ton of different genres of music. And so music is a part of our classroom. It's because they know I love it. And then they will come to me, hey, Miss Rixby, I learned this new song. Hey, what do you think about that? And so it creates an avenue to connect personally, and it builds that relationship with your kiddos. That one isn't quite as content related with making it personal, but
But
it opens up a relationship when they're able to now receive that information you're
and
trying to give them.
if you're not connecting to your students on a personal level, they're not going to take risks in your classroom.
That's true.
Right? They're not
That's
going to
true.
show their best
Mm-hmm.
self. They're not going to try when things are hard because they don't feel connected to you. So, yeah, we most definitely believe you have to connect to your students on a personal level, build the relationships,
Mm-hmm.
but you can also do that through your content.
Absolutely.
I mean, in my classroom, somehow when I started, I have a love of flamingos. I don't know. I don't know how it started, but now it's a thing. And
Mm-hmm.
kids bring me pictures of flamingos, figurines. I got a plant stand. I mean, it was just, and then all of a sudden my bulletin boards outside were flamingos. Now I have a love of flamingos, but the kids can connect
Mm-hmm.
to me, and then we can have those discussions when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to content.
Well, and too, I was just going to say it was another example of when we were doing, you know, when we were moving from life cycles and then into like animal traits and adaptations. What was one of the animals that the kids were able to relate to right away?
A
Of course
flamingo.
they're gonna go there. And so it was a great bridge to, from that personal, just knowing, personally something about her, but then putting content into that, they can relate to it. They're going to be more excited about it. And so just little things, sharing with your students, making that space, not just yours, but theirs as well. And so when you build those relationships, it
Yeah.
can help bring that content to life eventually later on.
And honestly, if you're thinking, okay, well, how do you fit this in if the curriculum says this? You know what? In the life cycle curriculum, if they're talking about a frog, flip it and do a flamingo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't have to follow that curriculum to the exact T.
Mm-hmm.
You know the end goal, backwards map. How can you get there for the students that you have in your classroom this year?
Absolutely.
Because what we're doing this year with our kids is not the same thing that our kids next year need, and it definitely wasn't what they needed last year with that group of students.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't sit here and teach the content and cover the curriculum with the exact scripted resource. We can't be compliant to that because
Mm-hmm.
it's not connecting to the group of students that we have in front of us.
Yeah. There's no way that every student, however 15, 20, 30 of your students are connecting when you are following such a rigid
Mm-hmm.
script. Now, that's not saying that your curriculum is bad or your resources aren't good. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying, look at the end goal and how can you modify it and make it personal enough so that way your students are more open to hearing what that content is.
Yeah, it's not a rule book.
Yeah,
That's
true.
You can change the rules. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right, so another strategy, Kara talked a little bit about music. If you know anything about integrated, we are obsessed with pathways to
Mhm.
learning. There are 7. One of those being music, which is
Mhm.
Kara's favorite. The other one is visual arts, which is probably the best pathway.
Oh, there is not a best. There is not a best.
Here's the thing. If you are trying to build a connection with your students and teaching curriculum, use a pathway.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in something that you love. I love visual arts. If there is any time that I can bring hands-on and the arts together,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do that. And my students see me work through that in the content that we're teaching, and then they go and give it a go.
Mm-hmm.
And it just comes back to if you're someone that plays guitar or has really cool dance moves or raps, I don't know, bring that in. How can you use your unique self to teach your content in your classroom? Building that connection piece.
And truly, a lot of times, something that you might be passionate about is aligned with one of those pathways. And that's why you're passionate about those things, because that's how you learn best. That's how you know, are able to express yourself in those ways. So we have to then translate that and connect our students to that. And we always say, like, just don't hone in on one pathway, even though there's
Sometimes
many
you just
times
really
that
like
I
that.
have to be like, no, try something new. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing. But you know, expose them to all,
Mhm.
because they may find one. They're like, hey, I really enjoyed that storytelling pathway,
Mhm.
or you know, whatever it might be, the technology piece, purposeful technology piece. So just yeah, pathways is going to be a huge, huge, huge component of moving from the compliance mindset into the connection mindset.
And it's not another thing.
No,
We're not
no.
asking you to make this Pinterest worthy, spend all day doing the thing. Just, you know what? Just get some construction paper and some glitter and go for it.
Oh, those poor
Oh,
custodians.
I know. Okay, so all right, so we've
Well, I
talked.
just thought so. We were talking about making it personal. Yeah.
Yes,
That
okay.
was the first strategy. The second strategy was pathways, combine them. What about storytelling?
There we go.
So you're teaching a piece of content and you're trying to figure out how can you connect your students to it? How can you connect to it? Where is some time in your life that you have experienced a little piece of what this content is touching on? Tell that story.
Yes.
Force is in motion. Tell the story of going to an amusement park and up and down the roller coaster. Whether it was terrifying for you, exciting for you, tell the story. Weave a story around it so the kids are interested. Not only are they learning about you, but now they're hooked on, oh, that's what this is. That's what
Mhm.
we're going to be learning about. And so I just thought of that.
Yeah, and also my family and I, we went to Moab and saw the arches and all the things, took pictures. Put those pictures up.
Yes,
We're talking
yes.
about landforms and erosion and
Mm-hmm.
all the things, and just have there are so many ways that you can connect with your students and it be personal. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess the biggest takeaway is just that.
Mm-hmm.
What can you bring in, whether it's with a with the pathway and yourself personally to the content so that your students are feeling who you are in your authentic teaching?
Absolutely.
All right. So, I think too, giving students some choice,
Student
like
choice.
letting them have some connection to what they're learning.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking, choice boards and all the things. Those are wonderful, but sometimes that's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
The choice in that you just created something and end of the it's just you've created something. You've talked about something with a group. Give your students time to share that in a way
Mm-hmm.
that they want to. Do they want to make a video to share? Do they want to stand up and share it with a class? Do they
Mm-hmm.
want to write about it really quick? Just give them a way to connect to what they're learning and what they're doing to their peers. So
Mm-hmm.
just another level of connection.
So almost like guided choice a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we've talked about making it personal. We've talked about, of course, the pathways. We've talked about student choice. And I think another component to helping move from compliance to connection is reframing your mindset, or reframing what the curriculum is. Maybe not is,
Mm.
maybe is isn't the right word, but reframing the curriculum in the way of, I don't have to say this when it says this.
Hmm.
It kind of goes back to what Meg was talking about before. What is your end goal? And how can you take that and mold it into a way that you know your students are going to relate to better?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean don't use the resources. Use the text if the text is applicable. Pull all those different things. Just present it in a different way.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. It's not the resources or the curriculum itself. It's just how is it being presented. And then that's where the pathways come in.
Absolutely. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it goes back to what we said in the beginning of this is that, you know, you don't have to feel stuck in the rule book of the curriculum to cover everything or use that scripted guide exactly how they say. You're not checking off boxes. When you start to feel stressed out, burnt out, overwhelmed, that's when we, as an educator, we need to take a step back and we need to think, okay, what am I doing right now with my teaching that's not purposeful for me to have fun here? Because if that's happening, you're doing something that isn't bringing what your kids need, which is excitement,
Mm-hmm.
and what you need, which is the love of teaching.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So we have a challenge for you.
Ooh.
Yep. If you are listening to this, we have a challenge. We want you to choose a path, choose a pathway. If you're not sure what those 7 are, head on over to our website. We have those for you. There's all kinds of blogs over them, and pick one and implement it into your teaching.
Absolutely.
Immediately, like this week. Pick something and make it fun. Change up your curriculum just a little bit and see what it feels like. What really pay attention to your mindset going into it. What are your students experiencing? How are they acting? And just keep going and building from that.
Absolutely. Again, it's really just thinking about, you know, are you simply having students, you know, go through the motions, or are you wanting your students to truly learn and take away from whatever it is that you are presenting them? It goes back to not just reading what it says, but it's how are you presenting that information to the kids and how are they receiving it?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're having some wins in your classroom and it really felt great, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Share it with us on our YouTube channel. Text us, or text us. Maybe don't text us, but share it on social media.
Yeah,
we would love to hear what is happening in your classrooms. And you know what? When educators share their ideas, they just pop off more ideas. So share out there. We'd love to hear what you have going on.
Absolutely. We'd love to see how you are moving from that compliance mindset to that connection mindset and how it is impacting your students in your classroom.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, we're off to another night and back to the classrooms tomorrow.
Yep.
We hope that we provided you some value and that you're feeling a little bit more connected to what you're doing in your classroom. And we'll see you next time on Integrated EDU. Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with fellow educators.
Join the conversation in the comments and let us know how you're applying these strategies in your classroom.
Together, we can create meaningful learning experiences for all students.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.